Welcome to the Idiot's Guide. I'm Mackie Hall, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm thinking about skateboarding. When I was a kid growing up in the 80s, skateboarding was everything. It was the alpha and omega. We always looked to the big guys and the big heroes to see what they were doing. And the brand that the heroes rode for was a company called Powell Peralta. They had all the biggest and the best riders, people like Rodney Mullen and Tony Hawk, Caballero. There was just so many guys out there that they had that you wished you could be like. They had one thing on top of the skateboards and the edginess that they carried with them, and that was an incredible logo. I would venture to say that it was the most iconic skateboard logo, not of just its time, but of all time. The reason that logo was so powerful was because it was just so simple. It was a rounded scratch P that just looked like everything you wanted to do. The curves of that P just made you imagine that you could do a pool that way, or you could ride a park that way, or you could do all kinds of things. And what makes a logo great at the end of the day, it's simplicity. It's the way you can remember it. And number two, it's the inspiration it gives. And this logo was both simple and inspiring. So hopefully this will inspire some of the ideas that you have creatively. But just looking at this logo, it makes me want to skate. Let's get on with teaching you that logo. Okay, before we get started, we are going to create a new document. The new document we'll be creating will have a width of 1,000 points, a height of 1,000 points. We're going to use a single artboard, and we're going to be sure that the color mode is RGB. Before we get started, I want to remind you that we are going to be using the Essentials layout that's available in the top right corner of your screen. We are also going to be using Smart Guides. That will allow us to see lines, edges, and measurements much more easily and efficiently. Once we've created our new document, we'll grab our rectangle tool, and we'll start at the top left corner. We'll drag all the way down to the bottom right. Once that's done, we'll select our fill, make it full black, and we'll change our stroke to transparent. Once that is done, we will select Object, Lock, and Selection. That'll lock our black background, and it'll make it much easier for us to see our shape against the background. Like I mentioned previously, we are going to start by building the Powell Peralta logo. The way we do that is as follows. We'll start by setting a white stroke and a transparent fill, and we'll select our Ellipse tool. We'll click anywhere on the screen, and we'll create an ellipse that's 150 points wide by 150 points tall. Once that's done, we'll center it horizontally and we'll center it vertically. If you don't see this, select Window, Align. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to grab our Direct Select tool. We're going to click and drag on the bottom left edge of our ellipse. We're going to click Delete or Backspace, and we'll be left with 3/4 of a circle. We'll grab our pen tool, and we'll hover over our initial anchor point. We'll hold our Shift key, and we'll drag down to about there. It doesn't really matter. We'll be adjusting that point. We'll go back to our Select tool, and with our shape selected, we are going to open up the stroke window. It's available in the bottom right corner of my screen. If you do not see it, again, go to Window, Stroke, and that window will pop up. We're going to increase our stroke to 75 points. Next step, we'll grab our Direct Select tool, and we'll click and drag over our initial end point, again, just like that. Then we'll take our directional keys, and we'll arrow down until the bottom of our anchor point selection matches the bottom of our ending curve. That looks about right there. Next up, we'll grab our Selection tool, drag over our shape, and we're going to expand it. We're going to take our path and convert it into a filled shape. We do this by selecting Object, Expand. Once we're done with that, We're going to select our piece. Notice that we don't have a line anymore. Instead, we've got a filled shape. We are going to trade our fill and our stroke so that our fill is transparent and now our stroke is white. We're going to grab our direct select tool and we're going to drag across the end lines of our piece and we are going to delete. Next step, we're going to go back to our select tool. We'll click on our piece and we're going to right click and select ungroup. That's going to take those shape lines right there and ungroup them so that they are individual lines. Next, we'll select our blend tool and we'll click on the end lines to create our blend. We'll double click on our blend and we'll select specified steps. We'll make sure that step is 1 and we'll click OK. If you want to preview it, you're welcome to do that. Click OK. Next, with our piece selected, we're going to increase our stroke weight to 26 points. Next step after that, we'll round our caps and our corners and we will then rotate our shape 45 degrees. Looking at our original Powell Peralta logo, we've completed the shape. We've now got 2 more steps. The first thing we want to do is we want to expand it twice. The reason we do that is we want to convert our blend stroke into a physical stroke, and then we want to expand it again so all 3 strokes become individual filled shapes. We do this because we can then manage our colors more easily and we can increase and decrease the size without worrying about having to change stroke preferences within our scale tool. Let's go. Again, object, expand once. Notice once we click it off, we've got 3 stroke lines. Again, object, expand. And now we've got 3 individual shapes. The nice thing about how we have it now is we can change the colors how we see fit. We can double click on our color and we can change to a full red, or of course we can change it to a gradient. Again, we select it, we'll double click on our gradient tool, we'll select our gradient. Next we will click on the white from our default gradient. We'll select RGB and we will go to a green. We'll click off of that. Next thing, we'll click on our black gradient anchor. We'll change to RGB and we will select blue, maybe like that. Once we're done with that, with our gradient tool still selected and our piece selected, we're going to start from the bottom. We'll hold our shift key to make sure we've got an exactly vertical pull, and then we're going to drag up until we get the gradient that we're looking for. Once done, we've got our Powwow shape. Well, there you go. Hopefully you like this logo and hopefully it's the launching pad to a lot of your own ideas. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comments section below. Otherwise, subscribe. Otherwise, I'll look forward to seeing you next time. See you.